All right, today we're going to uncork something really fascinating, a quiet revolution that's happening in the world of wine. It's a completely new, science-driven way of thinking that's changing pretty much everything about how the wine we love gets from the vineyard into our glass. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever had that experience? You open a bottle from a winery you love, you're expecting that familiar taste, and it's just completely different from the bottle you had last year. It's something we've all run into, and it points to this massive age-old challenge at the very heart of winemaking.
So why does that happen? Well, the answer really lies in the traditional way wine has always been made. For generations, winemaking has been seen as this pure art form, deeply connected to the land and the unique vision of the winemaker. But all that artistry comes with a pretty big dilemma.
Think of the traditional winemaker as a painter. Every single year, nature gives them a new canvas, that year's harvest. And from that, they have to craft a masterpiece based on their personal vision and that magical concept of terroir, that whole combination of soil, climate, and place. It's a beautiful, romantic idea for sure, but it is also a huge gamble. This traditional approach actually has a name. It's called the push model. And it's called that because it is 100% producer-driven. The winery decides what the wine is going to taste like. They make it, and then they literally push it out onto the market, basically just hoping that we, the consumers, are going to like it. The real challenge here is that all the big decisions that define the wine's final character happen upstream. That is, way too early in the process out in the vineyard. A single choice, like the exact date to harvest, basically locks in the entire flavor profile for the year. This makes the final wine a total hostage to the weather, and it often leads to a pretty big mismatch with what we actually want to drink. And that, of course, brings us right back to our original problem, inconsistency. But what if there was another way? A totally new philosophy is starting to take hold, one that turns this entire model on its head. It's called the pull model, and it doesn't start with the producer. It starts with you. I mean, just look at the difference here. In the push model, the winery makes what it wants and tries to sell it. Simple. But in the pull model, the goal is to make what will actually sell. Production is triggered by customer demand, and the style is shaped by our tastes. It is a complete reversal of priorities. This quote really just nails the whole strategy behind the pull model. The idea is to delay making those final decisions about the wine style for as long as possible. So instead of locking everything in upstream in the vineyard, you make those crucial choices downstream, in the cellar, much closer to the customer. Okay, so this sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do that? How do you achieve that kind of flexibility in the real world? Well, to get it, we really need to look at a specific case study. Our story takes us to a Primitivo winery down in southern Italy. They were dealing with all the classic problems, wild swings from one vintage to the next, and trying to please different markets around the world. And their solution was brilliant. They stopped thinking of their grapes as the raw material for just one wine. Instead, they started treating them as the source for multiple, distinct ingredients. So the first tool they used is something called the Bigot Index. Now, the easiest way to think of this is like a super detailed report card for the vineyard. It grades 9 different factors, everything from how vigorous the vines are to how much sun the leaves get. This gives them this incredibly precise picture of each vineyard plot's potential. And the second tool is called Berry Sugar Loading, or BSL, and this is an absolute game changer. See, instead of just measuring sugar concentration, which can be misleading, BSL tracks the total amount of sugar building up in each berry over time. And why does that matter? Because the grape's aromatic profile, what it's going to smell and taste like, is directly linked to that accumulation. It lets them predict the final character with amazing accuracy, and this is the key: identify several different ideal harvest times, not just one. So here's how they put it all together. First, they use the Bigot Index to map everything out. Then, they use BSL to monitor the grape's development super closely. This allows them to do something pretty radical: conduct multiple, staggered harvests from the exact same vineyard at different points of ripeness. And each of those batches is then turned into its own distinct base wine, or as they call it, an ingredient. So, from a single Primitivo vineyard, they can create 3 completely different building blocks. The early harvest gives them a fresh, acidic ingredient. The mid-harvest gives them a balanced, aromatic base. And the late harvest? That gives them a rich, structured ingredient with those deep, mature fruit notes. All of a sudden, they have an entire palette of flavors to work with. And you can imagine, having these ingredients on hand completely changes the game.
It transforms winemaking from a reactive art into a proactive, intentional design process. It gives the winemaker a level of control and consistency that was just impossible before.
So let's go back to our analogy. The winemaker is no longer just a painter, stuck capturing a single moment in time. They're now more like a master blender, an architect of flavor. They are literally designing the final wine in the cellar, combining these precisely crafted ingredients to hit a very specific target. This table really just sums it all up perfectly. With the traditional push model, you make all your big decisions upstream in the vineyard, and you're stuck with high variability. But with this new pull model, you move that point of customization downstream to the cellar. The result? High consistency and incredible flexibility. And here is what that looks like in the real world. So let's say they find out that the US market prefers a Primitivo that's balanced but has a fresh, zippy finish. Well, they can now design that exact wine. They might blend, say, 50% of the balanced ingredient with 30% of the fresh one for that acidic pop and then 20% of the rich one for structure. It is truly winemaking by design.
So what does all this mean for the future of wine? Well, this isn't just some niche technique. It really represents a fundamental shift in how we think, combining the best parts of winemaking tradition with the incredible power of data. The benefits are just massive. Wineries can finally get that consistency from one year to the next. They can dramatically cut down on waste and unsold wine. They can adapt to changing tastes super quickly. And ultimately, it all leads to wines that are more precisely aligned with what we actually want to drink. It's that perfect fusion of art and science. Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought. As this customer-focused science becomes more and more widespread, that line between mass production and personalization starts to get really blurry. So the next time you open a bottle of wine that tastes exactly right, you have to ask yourself, was that just a happy accident of nature, or was it designed? Maybe, in a way, just for you.